Well, she could be busy one day, you'd be busy for an hour, and then you wouldn't do a thing for another hour. May, June, July, August, there'd always be something, with fishing and shooting in general, that kind of stuff. There'd be always something moving. The cuckoo clock is popular enough these days too.
The surname Arnold has been visible over various shop doorways in the main street of Virginia County, Cavan, for very close on 100 years. Raymond Arnold has carried on the family tradition in the light hardware business. He took over from his late father, Tony, and he sells anything from cuckoo clocks, as we heard there, to rat poison, from shotgun cartridges to watch batteries, dog food, things to catch pike with, anything and everything really. And the man who described it as an Aladdin's cave was closer to the truth than a simple description as a light hardware shop. Anyway, I went along and I chatted to Raymond Arnold and his wife Loyola and some of their customers. And the first question I had to ask him was, what time does he open?
9 in the morning until 6:30.
Saturdays?
Same.
6 day week?
6 days, yeah.
Some Sunday mornings in the summertime, the fishermen would be
Fishermen
knocking the
looking for the
door looking for the maggots. Get you out of bed.
And would you oblige?
He would. I'd be giving out to him saying he needs a day off.
You
See
couldn't
people
see
stuck.
a man stuck. You couldn't see a man stuck.
Father Leo Sheridan has been in and out of Raymond Arnold's front door since his boyhood in the 1930s, when he used to come and buy horseshoe nails for his father.
Frosty morning, you had to take the horse to the forge, get the ordinary shoes taken off, you had to get special horse nails, frost nails, which were triangular things that stuck into the slippery road. So the whole thing was getting in frost nails and getting the horse's shoes sharpened. And you had to be at the forge about 4 o'clock in the morning. And it was cold. It was always in a frosty morning, of course. And there was a queue of horses waiting. So my father always sent in for a load of these things because he was on the road every market day. That was part of his business.
And there was a sure supply of them in Arnold's.
Absolutely.
And how many would you get at a time?
Oh, you buy them by the pound. And then there were pig rings too. And the pig rings, I had to buy loads of those too because we had a lot of pigs and they were free range. So they wouldn't dig you up a field completely. You had to have put the rings in their noses, which I often did. I often put rings in.
Have you any of them around at all, right?
I have, yes.
Have you?
There was a special machine for...
And we have the ringer there too.
The ringer is what I was talking about.
That's the ringer there for putting them in it. You remember that, Father?
You put the ring in here.
And where are the rings?
The rings
Well,
they have here.
probably under the counter there. It meant that the pig wasn't... when he began to dig with the snout, it got sore. You've heard the latest ruling that's come out from the European Union, where you've got to put toys in with the pigs now.
Right.
No.
Yeah, got to put in footballs and different things so they can pitch them around.
What's this
Oh,
now? They look like...
That's the pig ring now.
oh,
That went in there.
Yeah.
Sat in there and you just squeezed it.
It comes out as in the shape of a C, and then you have to squeeze it into the unfortunate animal.
And you squeeze it into. You put about 3 of them into the pigs.
Yeah, it'd be about the size
See
of
that? Oh, it's gone now. But that was
about
the
the
way you
size
did
of
it.
two 20-cent coins
That's right.
together.
That's right.
Would your mother have ever dispatched you to this place for something for her?
She would, of course, for candles and dry and wet batteries for a radio. Flash lamps, lamps for bicycles, carbide for your carbide lamp on the bicycle. We always had this because it was more effective than the battery, which might die on the road. I always found it useful. I used to go out at night to visit my uncles and so on, and going home, get off on the hill, I'd put my hand over the lamp,
The carbide lamp.
over the carbide lamp to warm the hands.
It heated up.
Oh, it did, of course it did. It was gas, really. The carbide was in a container, and above the container was a small tank, which dripped the water down onto the carbide. And according as you wanted to increase the light, you let more water down. And then it went up on a little pipe to...
This was a gas reaction between the carbide and the water, which
Yes.
And
it produced a gas that went up into a, what would you call it, a burner, they called it.
yeah. So on a cold night, you could have a dual purpose.
When you're walking up the hill, you put your dual purpose.
light and heat.
Yeah, well, they sold a lot of that carbide here. You bought it in tins for...
I never saw it. I never remember that fellow.
You don't. The tins would be about that size, about a foot long. I always brought a few lumps of the stuff in my pocket.
Did you buy it by the pound, or did
You
you?
bought it by the tin. I don't know. It used to cost about $1 a tin. We had another great use for the carbide, which was forbidden by parents, but it was great fun. We used to get the tin and put the lid on the tin.
This is the tin containing the carbide.
Yeah, or any good solid tin, and put a hole in one end, put the carbide in and let a drop of water in, and then put a match to it. And you had an explosion which drove the lid off the tin, and it was quite a loud explosion, you see. You weren't supposed to do that, but we did that. That was another part. Yeah. Trouble coming into a place like this. Do you hear this?
Don't hear that too often these days.
No, but
Are they for sale?
yes, they're for sale. See, this is a sort of an Aladdin's cave with all the stuff that you've got here in it, and it was always like that.
When Father Leo was talking there, I heard him mentioning there, he mentioned the rural electrification. That was a great thing when it came round here, sure, to bring the electricity to every house and all that. And it created a lot of business in for us it did anyway, in the line of radios. And I remember one thing that my father sold, he went round all the houses that were getting the electricity, and he sold them all this little radio. He used to buy them from Philips. But I remember him like that. One time he went up to Dublin and he bought 500 of them.
500 radios.
Yeah. But there was a story about that about not many years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. A man came into the shop here one day and he said to me, he says, "I owe you some money." And I said, "Well, I don't think you owe me any money. As far as I know, you don't owe me any money." Well, he says, "I was in a house," he says, "the other night." And he says, the husband said to the wife, "Did you ever pay Tony Arnold for that radio?" And she said, "No, I thought you did." "Well, I didn't," he says. So he says, "That's the money for the radio." And the radio was sold in 1962 or 1963. And this is 1999 or around when it was paid for.
It was still on our conscience.
Yeah.
Gosh, he must have thought he was going to make a killing if he bought 500 radios.
Well, he did, and sold every one of them. And to this day, I think there's some of them working still. A little Philips radio. It would have been going on over a period of time, over a few years it would have been introduced.
And how long is the shop in the family?
It would be... My grandfather would have came here in the early part of the century, and he would have opened up a shop across the street, a pharmacy across the street. And then after a few years over there, this premises came on this premises here was the RIC station where we're standing here now, and he took over these two buildings then, and he turned this into a hardware, fish and all that sort of stuff, and then the other end was the pharmacy.
So your own memory then, how far back as a small boy, were you actually living over the shop here?
Yeah, just over the shop here is where we lived, and to the back of the shop.
What age were you when you were first recruited to stand behind the counter?
Oh, sure, when we were small, we had to help out here in the summertime. We used to be very busy with the fishing and that. There used to come an awful lot of English visitors over here. And we used to sell a lot of bait and all sorts of worms and ground bait and all kinds of stuff for fishing. And at that time too, we used to be very busy in the fishing, more so than now even, because fishing tackle in Ireland at that time was much cheaper than in England. So everybody coming over from England on holidays who had friends at home that wanted fishing gear, they all bought it in Ireland, because they had a big tariff on it coming in from the Far East into England, and they hadn't the tariff here. So it left it a lot cheaper here to buy it here in Ireland, and that was where we benefited at the time.
My father was a fisherman as well, and it used to be a man in Kells, Stephen Tormey, who used to fish with my father, and he used to knock at the door at all hours and say, "Quickly, Willie, come on. The Virginia boys, Arnold and Reynolds, are above in the sheep hole. Quickly, we have to get down there before they get the big fish."
Hello.
But yet they were great pals. My father and Ray's father, you know.
Spinners, yeah.
You know.
What? For something for pike?
For pike, yeah.
Yeah. You want the copper and silver spoon? No. There's the copper and silver spoon. No, that one. Do you want something different?
No, I'll take one of them anyway.
One of them. Which size did you want? The 2.5 or the 3 inch?
No, 2.5.
The 2.5, yeah.
Actually, yeah, I'll take one of them.
One of those there, a Toby type. That Toby type one. It's not a bad one for a pike either. Have you got traces? You have?
No, I'll take 2 traces.
No,
off you as well.
traces, yeah.
What are traces?
The trace is the thing that goes on the line before you put your spoon on the end or your bait on the end, so the pike doesn't cut the line on you. Little metal with 2 swivels on it, one on each end of it.
Lovely. What about you for
Yeah,
that?
those two. Yeah, I'll tell you now.
So where do you do your fishing?
Where do I do it? A place called Lough Cannon.
And what sort of pike are there in there?
Hopefully big ones. Hopefully big ones.
Is it just for the sport of it, or do you actually eat them?
No, just for the sport. Put them back.
Oh, do you?
Oh, I do, yeah.
674.
Relaxation.
And how long would you spend doing it?
If I get my chance, I'll spend the whole day at it. So I will. If I get a chance. If I don't have somebody pulling out of me at the same time.
I think you've got a
7 and 3 is
heavy weight of your own behind you here.
Yeah.
and 10. Yeah,
Thanks very
thank
much.
you very much.
He's what age is he?
He's Sean. How old are you?
4.
When was your birthday?
Last day.
The last day was yesterday, wasn't it?
Really?
And you were 4, weren't you?
Ah, good boy. And are you going pike fishing with your dad?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I don't know about that now. We'll see. We'll see.
That's news for you.
It is.
What was the biggest you ever caught?
12.5 pound.
And did they put up much of a fight?
It didn't. I was very disappointed. Came straight in. I mean,
Yeah, sometimes they put up a good fight,
Yeah.
and sometimes they don't. It just
Very-
depends on the
very
fish.
disappointed.
Yeah. You can be very lucky and unlucky at it. Yeah, you never
very.
know.
I was very disappointed. It just came straight into the shore for me.
Good luck to you, thank you.
Thank you.
You know the way sometimes you get stories about particular type of fish that become well known. Is there any fish around the locality here that has been found with a few hooks in it?
Well, it'd be quite common to catch pike with hooks in them, where they'd break and get off and that kind of stuff, where they'd cut the line and get away and that. I've caught trout myself with flies in them where they were lost, Generally, the fish, you see, if the hook is not stuck in a very vital part of their neck, if it's in the front of their mouth or that, it won't take them very long to get rid of the bait or hook. The acids in their systems or whatever way they do it, I don't know, but they won't have the bait in them very long. If they have room to manoeuvre at all with it.
So your own interest in fish, was it because of meeting the fishermen coming into the shop here, or was it what everybody was doing at the time?
Well, no,
Young
my
lads?
father would always have brought us fishing, and we would have been very keen on fishing and introduced to fishing at a very young age,
When you were a little lad now, would there have been much rivalry between you and the other fellas from the town here when you were fishing?
We always had competitions down in the mouth of the river, just going into the lake here in the town. perch used to come in there in thousands in the summertime. That we'd be maybe 10 or 12 of us sitting along there, and I'd catch 50, and another fella catch 60, and another fella catch 40, and
You catch as many as that,
Oh
really?
yes, no trouble catching 50 to 100 perch each that time.
And what would you do with them?
We'd all probably keep the bigger ones of them. If there was a lot of them would have been smallish, but if we got bigger ones, which we often would do, a shoal of bigger ones would come in, we always bring them home, and there'd always be people looking for them. Everybody going mad looking for perch. Lovely fish to eat.
Is that right?
Oh, lovely fish to eat, yeah.
Is there a particular way of treating them?
Well, we used to fillet them, we used to take the bone out of them altogether, fillet them, and then you had very little bone left then at all.
Would you toss them on a pan?
Yes, fry them on a pan with butter, and one of the nicest fish you could eat. Perch, but it's very hard to get them now, of course, like everything else. They're not available the way they used to be.
Is their number fallen in the lake?
It is. They've got
Or is it that
smaller.
there's nobody
They've got
with them?
smaller. I don't know. The perch seem to have got smaller, and they're not as popular. They're not as many of them. I don't know whether it's cormorants or what are eating them all winter long. Of course, there would be big, large flocks of cormorants come in from the sea there in the winter time. Eat a lot of fish. Yeah, I never remember them going way back. We never had flocks of cormorants like that. Never.
I wonder why it is.
I don't know now. It
Is
must
it
be
climate change or something?
Could be, or maybe that they've discovered a source of fish that just they didn't discover up until now.
It's easier than out on the wave-tossed Irish Sea.
This is it, exactly. Then there's in a lot of these inland lakes now, which in Lough Ramor there, you'd have a huge population of roach.
This is the lad with the little red fin, is that?
Yes.
And red tail.
Yes. You see, he's got to be a very, very common fish now, and they breed in huge numbers. And it's possibly that has brought in the cormorants.
Yeah.
And in thinning them down, the cormorants will be doing a good job, really, with keeping them thinned down, because when they get to a certain stage of population in a lake, nature kicks in and they take a disease, and they'll be wiped out anyway, or near enough wiped out.
Something there that you don't hear all that terribly often, a solo mouth organ playing a reel. In this case it was played by Aileen Gagan, and comes from a collection of music which was recorded not 200 yards down the road from Raymond Arnold's hardware shop down at Ramor Theatre in Virginia. And the other pieces that we heard earlier on come from the same local album, Music from the Heart of Cavan. Well, Raymond and his wife Loyola seemed to know everybody who came into the shop by their first name, and they sold anything from darts to rat traps to washers, and they were fairly good when it came to things for animals, like peanuts for wild birds or dog food, that sort of thing. Anything to do with animals they seemed to know about.
We had a pet fox here one time too. My father again got him from somebody, I don't know who, Harry Riley I think, or some of those fellas brought him in. Harry had one too. Harry had one that used to go into the pub and used to sit on the counter, and he'd give him some Guinness.
That's right.
Yeah.
His father had opened the back shop door there and shout "Rebel." That was the name of the fox, and the fox would come flying in. And then you had two magpies, Pat and Ray. Your father kept called them after himself and Pat McGovern. Weren't the little ones, and your father had opened the back door in the morning, and when he'd be having his rasher and sausage, and he called Pat, Ray, and they'd come in, fly into the kitchen, and he'd be giving them rashers and sausages off the plate.
Magpies?
Yeah.
Well, two for joy, they say. You don't just serve out things, you do services as well.
Oh, I do, yeah. Oh, yeah. I handle anything and everything. If you bring a head of a hatchet, a fork, a grape, whatever, I put a handle in it.
That's a fairly hefty looking axe now, that. Yeah. And you put the handle in. Is there what?
That's a piece of hickory.
How long would that last now?
Well, I suppose in the right hands it'll last for years and years, and in the wrong hands a fortnight. You wouldn't want to be in an exact hurry now to get these jobs done. When you wouldn't be busy, you'd do these things in quick enough, but if you were busy, they'd be left to one side.
It's a rat trap.
Many of them go.
That's a
I would
friendly
sell
one.
quite a few of those every year.
That's
too,
a
yeah.
friendly one, and then we have mouse traps, and we have environmentally friendly ones like that at a cage, you know, where the woman doesn't want to kill the mouse, and she catches the mouse and the little one, and she lets the poor little mouse, when she catches it out, to bring back its granny, granddad, grandchildren, great grandchildren, and all
them all
back
at the
to her,
one time.
and then she's in more trouble.
And that's a
That's a
humane.
rat one, yeah.
a
That's a
humane.
humane rat one.
So it looks like a basket that you'd put in a deep fat
Yeah.
fryer.
Yeah, and you
Now what do you do with the rat?
you just let it out alive and let it increase with population and
multiply.
come back with more to you, you know.
Most people will be putting
But
them into a
most
barrel
people
of
would be
water.
putting them in a barrel of water, but that's what happens.
Just collecting the old shotgun.
And how old is the shotgun, do you know?
Oh, that's a very old
Very
shotgun.
old
That's belonged to
His Father Paddy,
Father Paddy.
my uncle, it used to be. He was the parish priest in Mannerham for Cavan down there for a long time.
So he's.
He
You
left it
couldn't
to
say
me.
he's a cannon with a gun,
No.
could you? And what is the use for normally?
Oh, ducks are pheasants on season, but just off season now, so maybe a bit of clay pigeons shooting.
It's an old English gun. It's an Army and Navy English double barrel side by side shotgun.
How old would you reckon it
for-
actually is?
Oh, it could be 80, 100 years old, I suppose that.
And how did you come about it?
Father Paddy always had it, and he left it to me when he passed away, Lord Merson, in his will, so he left it to his nephew, Damien.
And was it something that you'd
Something
spotted all
always,
along?
always used to be talking about it. So he said he wouldn't forget me when he was.
George.
I want a 2-foot blade for the bushman, so this man will give
You
me
want-
Good man, George.
You're
That's the right
24.
man for you
now.
now.
that's it.
You do a lot of sawing,
Oh, I
George.
do, and I just bring blades to fellas that round me that will be sending for them too.
Now,
What is that?
that lad there, George, is €7.38.
Well, give me.
Do you need twine today?
Oh, not at all, no.
Okay, George.
George is coming in here a long time too, aren't you, George?
I'm coming a long time.
It's a long number of years.
35 years at least, anyhow. From I come to Killinshare, from I bought the land, I was there in Knockbride. From I bought the land in Killinshare, I'm coming here.
Yes.
And that's over 35 years. And if this lad's father, I was dealing with him, he'd be young that time, small. So he would. His father I was dealing with for many years, so I'm continuing on dealing with this man.
Did they ever let you down?
Oh, never. No way. Oh, never. Never.
Better not say that.
Oh, never. I'm here a long time and I hope to be coming for many years more. So I do.
That's it.
You better not sit in front of him anyway.
Oh, I hope I'm coming for many years more.
So what sort of stuff would you bought, George, over the years?
Oh, I sort of started, know, I'd buy paint and I'd buy this man would buy many a thing now and again. It's started everything. But
I suppose you had horses going back years.
we
ago
had,
too, George.
we had
And you
back
get the
years.
shoes and
We
all the
did.
rest.
Yes, we did long
Yes,
ago.
yes.
Had them definitely.
The shoes.
Yes.
The shoes. My father used to buy the shoes. He told me he used to buy the shoes 5 ton
Yeah,
of horseshoes.
that's right.
Of ready-made horseshoes?
Ready-made horseshoes. Yeah.
5 tons?
5 ton of them was the order.
Yes.
That to get them at the right price, of course. And
Yes.
all right. That.
And they'd arrive presumably on a cart or something? Or
They would have arrived to the railway, to Virginia Road Station, the railway, and then they would have been brought down then by, I suppose, a lorry, I suppose, yes.
But there's anything and everything here.
Oh, anything and everything. But what you want to do, you'd always get what you know, you'd always see you down the years.
Right.
We'll see you, George.
Bye-bye.
All the best now.
The young people nowadays are doing a lot of clay pigeon shooting, and that's becoming more and more popular as the day goes on. Shall we sell the clay birds and all the
I see them over there, those orange
the traps,
saucers.
the traps for launching them as well, and all that sort of stuff, and that's getting more popular now too. But the guns for that are a lot more expensive now.
How so?
You know, you'd be talking about, you'd be starting from 1,100 to 1,200 euros.
Did security and all the troubles we've had over the last 25 years, did that make much of a difference to the sale of guns?
It doesn't really. It has never really changed an awful lot. It's probably got a bit quieter because there's much less game now than there used to be. But apart from that, no, it wouldn't have had any. I mean, the sport still goes on in Northern Ireland and had gone on in Northern Ireland all through the Troubles. Still, the clayboard shooting and all went on in Northern Ireland in the middle of all the Troubles.
So if you wanted to set yourself up, say, with a gun for that sport and one of those launchers that you have, and how do the boxes come?
The boxes of clays come in 150 in a box,
Costing
10 or 12 euros.
as little as that?
Yeah.
10 or 12 euros for 150?
Yeah.
And what's the launcher cost?
The launcher, the one we would sell, now the basic model, double arm model we would sell would be about 250 euros.
Right. So between it and the cost of the gun, you're getting close on 1,500 there, really.
Yes, for a trap gun now. That'd be for a trap gun, for trap shooting. Capable of doing that type of work. You see, if you go to use an ordinary game gun for trap shooting, which you can do, but every time you use it, you're abusing it.
How so?
Because it's not capable of doing the rapid shooting that clayboard gun is. If you're firing 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 cartridges rapidly in succession, the game gun is not
Black silicone.
really suited to that.
They're not designed for it. Would
No.
they overheat or what?
Well, you would have a certain amount of that, yeah.
Geraldine.
Certain amount of that, yeah. How are you, Richie?
Can
you get what you're after?
Yeah, I have it. I have it here, Richie. Richie, 4.49. So no fun with you, Richie.
Oh,
That's black silicone now.
Yeah, that's what he wants.
that's
Yeah.
the one I want. Check there. I want to see what's the story.
Well, the story isn't right yet, Richie,
No,
but
it's
you're
not.
we're getting there.
How much more?
Well, we say 10,
I'm getting rid of-
20 of the 29. So if you give me give me another 20 now.
You're right now.
Now we're right.
I'm trying to get rid of the load.
I know, should the little brown lads, they're not worth the damn, are they? And you add them up. Now, Richie, you can do the damage with that.
Thank you, Richie.
See you, Richie. Bye. Thank you.
No, so that's it.